Hello. Yes, I'm back with another video. And I was scrolling on Reddit the other day and I found people asking some questions about studying in France, studying engineering in France as well. So I thought that, you know what, maybe I could answer this question. Before we get into that, introductions. My name is Shrey. I am an Indian student who was born and raised in Malaysia. And then I moved to France at the age of 18 to pursue my studies in engineering. Now I'm in my fifth and final year. I've lived 4 years in France. So yeah, I think I might know a thing or two about living and studying in France. And I think that this information could really help the few of you who actually watch my videos. So even though these questions that I'm about to show you may not necessarily be answering the person who asked the question, perhaps a person who is watching this video might be in the situation of the question that is going to be displayed on screen. Perhaps my answer could help you. But yeah, if anything, you can feel free to ask a question in the comments. I'll do my very best to answer them. And yeah, typical YouTuber stuff, like, subscribe. But honestly, I just want this video to bring you value. So let's get into it. Question 1. Is it a good idea to study engineering in France? For context, I'm currently majoring in aerospace in Vietnam, but going abroad has always been my dream. I think France is a good option, but I don't know how engineering is taught there or what university to choose. I prefer cheaper ones. If I do finally apply to one, I plan on dropping university here and starting over in France. Is it a dumb idea? What should I do? What university can I look into? So, first and foremost, how is engineering taught in France? It is very theoretical. You do have practical work that is given to you at times, but overall, in terms of the way they teach you, in terms of the way you are assessed, engineering school in France, in my experience, has been very theoretical. My fifth and final year is a mandatory exchange in a partner university outside of France. And so here I am, temporarily in Sweden, and the teaching style over here compared to France is night and day. France is very theoretical. France has a huge emphasis on written exams, whereas Sweden is more about practical work and projects over here. I understand that early engineering studies are very theory-based because you need to know it, but as you progress to higher years, there is a bit more practical work thrown in there in France. And then in Sweden, my experience is just a lot of it is practical work. So you will attend a lecture, you will take notes, you will solve practice questions, and then you will be tested on paper in an exam. And then you have your fair share of projects as well in French engineering school. What university to choose? I prefer cheaper ones. If you prefer the cheaper ones, go for public universities. But if you go into a public university, you might not necessarily be stuck to one program. You'll probably get your bachelor's degree, and then after that, you'll have to go and do a master's straight away. Because again, the employability of bachelor's degrees holders, especially those who are foreigners in France, is very low or pretty much non-existent. If you want to hear me talk a little bit more about that, you can click the video up in one of these corners and then skip to, I think, the 19th second of that video where I talk about the bachelor's degree trap. It's the harsh reality in many European countries, especially France and Belgium, where bachelor's degrees don't hold that much value anymore. I plan on dropping university here and starting over in France. Is it a dumb idea? Not entirely. If your foundation in aerospace is completely unrelated to what you plan to study in France, then it would be okay to start over. But you know, if you have studied maybe the first or second year in aerospace, there might not be that much of a difference if, let's say, you go and do mechanical or electrical engineering in France. However, it's very important to weigh the two programs against each other. If you're going for another aerospace program in France, then I would say don't start from scratch. See if you can transfer your credits. See if you can get a school leaving certificate from your current university, and then try to apply to a university in France. But again, it really depends from institution to institution. So again, go and do your own research. But if you're going to study aerospace in your home country, and if you're going to go and study aerospace in France, I wouldn't recommend starting from scratch. I would just recommend trying to transfer your credits. All right, next question. I'm thinking about getting my master's degree in France. I'm an undergraduate senior mechanical engineering student from the United States of America, and I was thinking about getting my master's degree in France. I thought it would be a great start towards dual citizenship, and it's cheaper. I did hear that the US recognizes French master's degrees, and since I'm a US citizen, I wouldn't run into those problems of finding a job here. Thoughts about it? Alright, So 100%, pretty much any degree in France is a lot cheaper than it is in the US. Because especially for those who want to study engineering, you could be spending about $50,000 a year in tuition fee alone in the US. Whereas in France, it's nowhere near that price. So it is definitely cheaper. It could be a great start towards dual citizenship. I kind of don't get this because later on he mentioned that he is trying to find employment in the United States afterwards with a French degree. The thing is, the requirement for dual citizenship, if you're getting a master's degree, is that once you finish your degree, you're going to have to find a job in France. You're going to have to work there for at least 2 years. In the end, pretty much filing 2 years of tax returns. And then only will you be eligible to apply for citizenship by naturalization. So for those of you who are watching, I think many of you might have heard that you could be eligible for citizenship by naturalization after getting a master's degree in France. That is true, but the thing is, there's a lot more to it. It's not like you get a master's degree and then you can suddenly apply for citizenship. No, you're going to have to find employment in France. You're going to have to find a company who's going to sponsor your work visa. You're going to have to work. You're going to have to pay and file taxes. Then you have to show all sorts of integration into French culture, like learning the language, understanding what France is all about. So it's important to know these things. It's not like you get a degree and then you can suddenly apply for citizenship by naturalization. That's not how it works. So I'm just clearing up that whole misconception. But yeah, for this person, since they are a US citizen and they would like to go and work in the US, I don't see a problem about going to France for their studies and then going back to the US to try to find a job. As long as the French master's degree is well accredited, there shouldn't be a problem because it should be internationally recognized. All right, next question. This has come from the Indian Study Abroad subreddit. And actually, I know there aren't many people who watch these videos of mine, but YouTube analytics tell me that most of you watching these videos are from India. So, I think going and looking at a subreddit about Indians studying abroad is very important for those who are living in India, for those who have gotten an education in India, because it's completely different from what I had, even though I am Indian, but I never grew up in India. I'm 22 female. I have submitted my application to 2 top colleges in France a week ago, and I'm actively searching for a job. I have work experience. I have to leave that organization because of a few issues. Is there anything I have to know or work on? Because college starts in September 2026, and I'm also learning French. So for those of you who are watching this at a later date, this video is currently being filmed in November 2025, so September 2026 is about 10 months from now. So to answer this question, first off, I would definitely say that this person is already taking a very good step towards studying in France by learning French. Everyone's language learning ability is different, so by the time you get to France, at least you will know a little bit of French, or if you're good with languages, then you might be able to speak the language. So whilst you are waiting to go to France, I would definitely say that there are some documents that you will need to prepare. So get your birth certificate, translate it into French using an official translator and get that attested by the French embassy. And since most of you who are watching this are Indians, I know that a lot of us Indians have multiple names in our official government documents. The thing is, when you are applying to go and study in France and when you are doing administrative procedures in France, your name is going to have to be exactly the same on every single one of your documents. Any document that you will have to present in an administrative procedure in France, your name is going to have to be exactly the same on all the documents. So make sure that if your name is not exactly the same, for example, if your second middle name and your third middle name is swapped, that's going to cause you all sorts of problems, and it could even lead to visa rejections in the first place. This is very important because I've seen for France and even for Sweden when I was applying for the visa, many people from India who were applying for visas to France and even to Sweden, they were getting rejected because the name on their passport, the name on their birth certificate, and the name on their bank statement was not exactly the same. So this can cause quite a fair bit of problems. So just make sure that you legally amend all of these before applying to France. That's pretty much all I have to say for this question. All right, next question, also from the Indian Study Abroad subreddit. I want some answers regarding total cost of studying in France. So this person's qualifications are a BTech in computer science. They're in their final semester. And they would like to know the cost of studying in France, such as document verification, visa, rent, a bank statement. So this person already knows about certain things like subsidies on rent, which if you don't, you can get subsidies on your rent by looking at this government organization. Transportation provided by the French government. Yes, you can get student discounts for your local public transport. So including all of this, he would like to know the total cost. Now, there are many factors that come into play when determining the amount of money it's going to cost for you to go and study in France. On paper, the French government requires you to show 615 euros per month on your bank statement when applying for your visa. This comes to about 7,400 euros in total that you're going to have to show for 1 year. Now, I know most of you are watching from India, so that's about 7.4 lakh rupees. That's not including your tuition fee. So this is your cost of living, which means your rent, your groceries. Now, can you actually live like something on this? Let's set a few constants in place, right? If let's say you're going to be living in Paris, let's say you're going to go study engineering, let's say you're studying in a private institution and you're going to be studying in English. 615 euros is not going to be enough to live in Paris because your rent itself is going to be 600 minimum. My costs were a little bit lower because I lived in Lyon. I lived in student housing. I got subsidies on my rent. So my cost of living was brought a bit lower. I tried to cook as much as possible. So my grocery bill was also lower. There was a time where I wasn't cooking that much, so my grocery bill did go up. But yeah, and then my tuition fee, even though I was studying in English in a private institution, my tuition fee is considered expensive in France, but it's nowhere near what I would have paid going to an institution in Paris. So even then, it's still not cheap by any means. I think a safe amount for studying the course that I just mentioned in Paris, I would definitely say a safe amount is between 18 to 22 lakhs, which comes to about 18,000 to 22,000 euros. Hello there, Future Shrey here. I'm editing the video right now and I just want to clarify this whole part about the total cost of studying in France. It really depends on what you're studying, what city you live in, the lifestyle that you want to live. If you're spending like 10, 12,000 euros on tuition fee and you're living in Paris, you're definitely spending more than 20,000 euros a year. You could go up to 25 to 30,000 euros because Paris is just very expensive. Institutions there charge quite a lot. Rent is high. The cost of living in general is very high in Paris. So you could go up to 25 to 30,000 euros a year if you are going to an expensive institution. If you are going public, then you are going to save a lot of money on tuition fee. But yeah, even if you're going to spend a lot more money than what people would usually spend studying in France, it's still crazy to think you still won't come close to the loans that people take out to go get bachelor's degrees in engineering in the United States. People take out, 2 to 3 crores to go study in the United States? You are spending about 1 crore lesser than what people usually would. But again, really depends where you live, what you study, and how you live your life. So just want to clarify this part and we get back into the video. Scamming people who wants to study in France. Recently, I got accepted into a private university in Paris. At first, I was happy, but then I saw a post about universities that offer you nothing. You pay them money and their degree is useless. So I posted this to ask you about universities that scam people. I was accepted at, I'm not going to say that business school, I'm also going to blank it out, but a certain business school, and I've never heard of it. So I thought maybe it's a scam. I'm sorry in advance if I seem rude or saying false accusations about universities in Paris. Now, I blurred out that university name because I actually went and had a look at the university. I couldn't really find anything that gave the signs of a sham university, but this is how you can spot a sham university. First thing, RNCP registration. This means that the university is registered with the government and the government has approved it to give an education to its students. RNCP registration. Secondly, accreditation. Who is the accrediting body? If you're going to be studying engineering, I would highly recommend that you get something by the CTI. This is the National Commission of Engineers. If you're into business, then go and check some worldwide recognized accreditors. Paris is known for having some of the best business schools in the world. To go try and look at some worldwide recognized accreditors, they always accredit the best universities in Paris. I couldn't really see that this university had no accreditation at all. So I cannot really say for sure whether this is a sham university. Third thing I would recommend you doing, go and find alumni on LinkedIn. Go on LinkedIn, try and find alumni from that school that you're applying to. Whether it's an engineering school, business school, whatever it is, go and find someone on LinkedIn who went to that school and try to message them. The reality is, there are many universities in Paris that are sham universities. It is very important that you take full precaution, you do your research, look at accreditations, go and speak to alumni, see if this institution is registered with the government, and that way you make your call. Do not dish out 15,000 euros or something to a university that is not recognized worldwide. It's important that you go and look at the reputation of the school. All right, last question of this video. What's it like studying mechanical engineering or any other engineering in France as an international student? I'm a 19-year-old international student looking to study mechanical engineering in France. I've been comparing options in Europe, and France looks really appealing. Cheaper tuition, strong engineering culture, and decent English top programs at places like the University of Lorraine, INSA, Polytech, etc. But I'd really like to hear from people who are actually studying in France, especially in engineering. What's your day-to-day life like? How's the teaching quality, lab work, and project support? Do professors care about students, or is it more independent? Are English top programs really all in English, or do they mix French in classes? How hard is it to adjust culturally? Housing, food, making friends, bureaucracy. What's the internship/job situation and part-time jobs for international students, especially if you don't speak fluent French yet? I'm curious how it compares to the UK or Germany for engineering students, especially when it comes to cost of living and future opportunities. This is a very important question that I think a lot of you who watch these videos must ask about studying in France, especially those who want to study engineering right after high school. So, what's the day-to-day life like? Now, my experience when I was in engineering, especially my early years, first year, second year, the schedule was pretty brutal because I had a lot of classes and a lot of work to do. So my first class would start at 8 in the morning, and then I'd have classes all the way until 12. Lunch from 12 to 1:30. So they actually give us a pretty good amount of time for lunch, an hour and a half. Then from 1:30 to 5:30, another set of classes. So basically my day was 8 to 5:30. Then after that, I was consistently staying back at the university to work on my assignments, to study for exams, because when you're in an engineering school in France, especially if you're at a top institution, you're going to have a lot of work to do. And yeah, if you don't practice what you learn in class in your own time, you're going to be cooked in the exam. And if you fail exams, that's not going to end well. So normally my daily routine was like 8 to 5:30, then I would stay back a little bit to work on some assignments. I'd go back to my place, have dinner, and I'd probably relax during the night. But yeah, during exam season, it was just non-stop studying for me. So that was what my day-to-day life was like in the early years of my engineering education. After a while, especially in my fourth year, a lot of the work that needed to be handed in was project-based, so I could really work on it in my own time and decide my own schedule. And yeah, that's pretty much what normal university life should look like, because now that I'm in Sweden, I don't have that much time in class, but I'm working on my projects in my own time. Unlike in France, where I was going to class at 8, finishing at 5:30, and then I'd have to study more afterwards. But yeah, that's the reality of engineering school in France. How's the teaching quality, lab work, and project support? Teaching quality depends on your institution. Usually at a top university, they will always give you good teachers. I personally had some very good teachers. Some teachers whose style I just completely did not understand, and it did not work for me. But that's the normal part about getting an education. Not all the teachers that you're going to come across are going to be absolutely fantastic. You're not going to understand every single teacher that you come across. But yeah, I think I was pretty blessed with some good teachers. In terms of the lab work, if you're going to a top university, they should have a lab for you to work in. So I've worked with CNC machines, 3D printers, like the whole shebang. But like with the whole mechanical side, that's not really my strong suit. I really like the electrical side of things. It was very theoretical, but there was also quite a lot of lab work. Obviously, a lot of safety precautions were taken for electrical engineering labs because you give a group of 19, 20-year-olds a bunch of electrical components, something is bound to go wrong, and they might blow something up. Fortunately, nothing happened in my labs. Do professors care about students, or is it more independent? So professors, in my experience, they mostly care about attendance and they care about our presence there, but at the same time they treat you like adults. So if you don't want to show up, don't show up, but there are consequences. Are English taught programs really all in English, or do they mix French in classes? In my experience, my classes were like 95% English instead of 100% English. I didn't really mind if a professor could not necessarily find the correct phrase to say in English. So they would just say it in French. And anyways, most of my class were French students. So if I did not understand something at the time, I would just ask for translation. And yeah, that was pretty much fine. But in my experience, 95% of the time, it was all in English. And I didn't really ever have a problem if a lecturer could not necessarily say a certain phrase in English. I understand because these are professors who are very knowledgeable, but they're teaching in their second language. How hard is it to adjust culturally? Yeah, this is a lot to unpack. Housing, I recommend just going for student housing. I highly recommend getting a cruise. Food is completely fine. Normally, I just cooked at home, or if I didn't, then I'd probably go get a pizza because that's like the cheapest thing I could buy. So yeah, making friends. I met a lot of international students. I met a lot of French people. I know many people who visit France. They say, "Oh, the French are so intimidating. They are so unfriendly." That might be true to a certain extent, but again, don't generalize all people into the same bracket. The fact that they are there in your classroom tells you that they are a bit more culturally open, and so I would say just approach them. They should be friendly. For me, I've had very good experiences. Today, I can definitely say that, some people who I met in my first year, they are still very good friends. I definitely was very blessed with some good friends. I was also able to become friends with a lot of other people from different countries. The important thing is just be there, just show up and just be open to talking to people. For me, I am quite introverted. I know many people think that if you're able to speak in front of a camera, you're automatically extroverted. No, I am not by any means extroverted. I am quite an introverted person, but sometimes I just push myself out of my comfort zone to go and speak to someone. What's the internship or job situation and part-time jobs for international students, especially if you don't speak fluent French yet? I'll lay it flat out for you. It is not easy to find an internship in France. It wasn't easy. Whether it's French speaking, English speaking. Now, given that this person said that you don't speak fluent French yet, that was my situation last year. I wasn't entirely comfortable with working 100% in French, but I was able to still speak quite a fair bit. I got my internship on LinkedIn. That's how you know it fell from the heavens, because most people who apply on LinkedIn, they don't really ever hear back, or they get AI generated rejection letters. It is not easy to find an internship. It is important to attend career fairs, to speak to different people at the university, to even speak to your friends. Some of your friends who are locals might have family who are in positions to hire students as interns. If you're introverted like me, push yourself out of your comfort zone a little bit more and go and speak to people. That's kind of how most of my friends have landed internships. For me, I was very fortunate to land one on LinkedIn. And yeah, part-time jobs for international students. So if you're going to an engineering school, I mentioned what the schedule is like. 8 a.m. to 5:30 plus you're going to have to study after that. I do not recommend getting a part-time job. Now, that isn't to say that it is impossible. No, I have had classmates who have worked part-time jobs while studying. There are opportunities, but the important thing is you have to learn French. Now, there is the other option where I know someone who did not speak French very well. He was from Turkey. There was a Turkish market in the area. And so he went over there and said, "Hey, I am from Turkey, I speak Turkish." And he negotiated with the owner and he got a job. So you could try finding a market from your own culture and perhaps get a job there. That's kind of how I see opportunities if you do not speak French. For me, I did try getting a summer job once. I just got rejected. Yeah, my French was so bad back then that I misgendered myself during the interview. It was pretty bad. If you're going to go and look for jobs for international students, first thing, I wouldn't really recommend it if you're going to get into an engineering school with a very heavy schedule. But if you're able to hack it and you don't speak fluent French yet, try and find the market of your own culture. I know most of you who are watching are Indian. Find an Indian market in your local area. If you speak Hindi, if you speak Tamil, if you speak Telugu, whichever language you speak, you can try to find a market in your area and then just speak to the owner. So yeah, that's pretty much it. I rambled on a lot. I've been recording for like an hour and a half. That is ridiculous. I don't know how I'm going to edit this down. Overall, I just really hope that all of my rambling brought you some value. If you have questions, feel free to ask it in the comments. I'll try my best to answer them. And yeah, if you want to watch any one of my other videos, you can check out this one, which is about the 6 things that you must know before studying in France. And this one, which is the engineering degree explained. That's pretty much all I have to say. So take care. Goodbye.